lesson number 3. So all of this from what we talked about, is testable, okay? So we've already covered the communication process. We've already covered communication apprehension or stage fright. And now we're going to cover listening. Okay, now there's some things that you're going to kind of be like, all right, let's just keep moving on. Really easy stuff. And then when we get to the science, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, so bear with me. Okay, so how listening works is there's a big difference and a key difference between hearing and listening, okay? Pay very close attention to this because this is a very common test question that is missed, all right? Hearing is the biological process, okay? Where in this photo is a very good illustration of it. You see bacon goes in through your ears.
Bacon.
I'm joking, okay? I love this picture because it looks like bacon. All right. So when sound waves hit your eardrum, a magical thing happens. A very magical thing happens. In fact, I'll show you what that magical thing is. All right. Uh-huh. One sec. So there's a process. There it is. Cool. Science. Who knew, right? Okay. So hearing is this biological process where you see the bacon going in through your ear. You see the sound waves going in through what's called the pinna. Okay? This area here is called the pinna. And the pinna works as a satellite dish, a funnel, for collecting these sound waves, okay? And there's a very true statement in that if people have bigger ears, okay, they can hear better. There's a truth to that statement, okay? Because think about it, it's a humongous funnel for these sound waves. If you've ever seen old people or me do this, cup your ear like this, to hear people, because I told you guys that I have a little hearing issue on my one side because I'm in college. You actually hear better. So we'll do a little test, okay? Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to keep talking for a little bit. What I want you to do is I want you to listen to me, and then when I say go, I want you to put your ears like this and then listen to me. And you'll notice it's amplified a little bit, okay? So ready? 1, 2, 3. Put your ears here, and now you'll notice that when I'm talking to you, it's more amplified. Now go back and forth and take them on and off, and what you can tell is that my voice becomes a little more amplified when you make your pennas bigger. Am I right? Whoa! Science, folks. So these pennas funnel in the sound waves. Sound waves are just these waves you can't see. Okay, they're pressure waves, really. There's pressure. By the way, I'll tell you a way to win some money today about pressure waves in just a moment. So it goes into the penna, goes into the ear canal. By the way, funny story. My son had a fall, and he got a blood vessel cut up here, bled out the ear like crazy. So anyways, this goes in and touches, what is this? What is this? Anyone know what this is? Eardrum, called the tympanic membrane for those who like scientific facts. It's called the tympanic membrane or the eardrum for those that want to call it that. And what it does is it shakes these 3 drums of pinna. It's spelled P-I-N-N-A. It makes no sense at all. Because the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup. Okay? 3 bones in here called the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup. And these bones rattle. And you can see them rattle once it vibrates the eardrum, they move. Okay? Now what happens when these bones move is it goes into the cochlea, and it rattles the cochlea. And inside the cochlea, there's what? What's inside our cochlea? Agua! Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Yes, there is water in the cochlea. How do you know there's water in the cochlea?
I like science.
Good. So, in the cochlea, there is fluid. Okay? Let's see if I can get a little more deep into this cochlea. Cochlea kind of looks like a shell. All right, so inside your cochlea, there's some fluid. Now, the fluid is all, you can't see this very well, but inside the cochlea, there's these little villi hair cells, kind of like the villi inside your stomach and intestines. I'm sorry. And what happens is these little hair cells, they kind of flow with the water, okay? And this is why I told you I have terrible hearing in my ears, because when the water inside oops, this is not blue, this is red. Oh, there's okay. So when the water inside the cochlea is agitated, it's agitated by when the hammer anvil and start vibrate over here. It causes the water to wave. Okay, so it thrashes around like waves. Okay, pushes the water around. Now, when the pressure waves are too much, okay, or to a certain decibel, 108 over 180 decibels. Okay, and there's a chart that I can show you that tells you kind of what's the decibel length. I think it's like a little past a bus driving right in front of you is 180 decibels, I think. Anyways, anything past 180 decibels, you can have hearing damage. So what happens is the waves are too much, and it breaks these hair cells. What happens? The hair cells go flat down, and they break. Unlike the hair in your head, these won't ever grow back. That is why people who put their earbuds deep in their ear holes, okay, experience that cotton sensation, like a cotton ball's in your ear, afterwards, okay? That's because they've sustained hearing loss, hearing damage, okay? Because the water in the cochlea has destroyed those hair cells or those hair villi in your cochlea, okay? Pretty interesting stuff, right?
So just because the hair is being
Sure.
So how do we hear?
How do you hear?
Yeah.
So a very good question. So like I said, hearing is a biological process. So what happens is these hair cells transmit an electrical impulse into what's your auditory cortex, okay? And inside your auditory cortex, and believe it or not, your auditory cortex is actually on the side of your head, which makes perfect sense because your ears here, so your auditory cortex is on the side. And what happens is, have you ever noticed that when you fall on your head, sometimes people have this ringing in their ears?
Yes.
That's because your auditory cortex is here and it creates electrical impulses that stimulate that. Now, look at me, I'm sounding like a biology teacher today. So, this will send a message. In fact, if I put this down, you'll see. So it then sends the hair cells, send a message as an electrical impulse. And those go to the cortex, to the auditory cortex. And then, right then and there, ladies and gentlemen, does the auditory cortex make a choice of what that sound is. Hearing, ladies and gentlemen, is a perception. You perceive hearing. Okay? You have to actually, like, it's got to go in. Okay, it has to happen. The pressure waves to go in and create this message. And then it goes to your brain. Your brain interprets it. Okay? So if you don't really have a brain to interpret sound, you cannot hear sound. Does that make sense? So, the age-old question is, if there is a tree in a forest, and the tree falls, and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Yes, no, it's just no one hears it. No.
I mean, it still makes a sound.
But does it make a sound?
Yeah.
What kind of sound do you need?
Remember what I just told you. If a tree falls, an empty forest, does it make a sound? Where is sound created? Everybody. In your brain. Sound is created in your brain. So if there's no creature, no person there with a brain to interpret it, does it make a sound? No.
Yes.
No. No.
Yeah.
So, what I told you earlier, and there's textbooks that I can show you that prove me correct. One year I had a mother get upset about this, said, "You're an idiot, you know what you're talking about." I said, "Yes, I do. There's science behind this." So what did I tell you? How is sound created? It's created as what? It's created as what? No. Sound starts as waves, pressure waves. Can you see these waves?
No.
Huh? No. So when you hear these, you can't hear these waves, right? If no one is there taking the waves into your penna, into your ear, vibrates, all that stuff, if no one is there taking it, just makes the waves.
But there's still sound.
No!
Okay.
Because sound is a perception. Sound is created by a brain. If there are no brains to take in the sound, it just makes pressure waves. Does that make sense? You need an ear and a brain to make it work, isn't it?
So people who think that it makes a sound are wrong.
They're wrong.
Because they think it changes from the wave into the sound.
Correct. Correct. There's no one there to take it. Right.
They're right. There's still a pressure wave.
There's still a pressure wave, but it's not a sound yet because sound isn't a perception. You create sound in your mind.
So it's there to hear.
It's there to be able to be right. It's there to hear, but since no one hears it, it is not a sound. Hearing is a biological process.
So you mean some of us if we hear different?
Yes, absolutely. We all hear things a little bit differently. Yeah.
What? We hear stuff.
Yeah. No, we don't.
Yeah.
Wait.
Why do people have different tastes in music? Kidding. But so our brain typically interprets certain intensities. Like so, when the hair cells bend, the way they bend will transmit more of a stronger or weaker signal, and then your brain makes sense of that. So like, okay, if you were to play a recording of me talking, like this recording here, okay, if I listened to it, yeah, it would sound very similar to the way you heard it, but it may be a little different, and the changes aren't that noticeable, okay? But they'll usually sound a little bit different because it's just an interpretation of how our brain creates it. It's not drastic, but we all hear things just a little bit different. So some people have like perfect pitch, right? Look at you. Like those piano tuners, I don't know how in the world like they can just boom. They're like, all right, I know what to do. There's no way. That's why I can never be a band member. All right. So let us go back. So look at that. Look, I'm teaching you some science today about bacon. So listening next. So you know, hearing is biological. Okay. All right. So, in listening, it's this active process. You actually have to participate in this. Okay? Okay, I'm not going to do it. No, in listening, it involves receiving, interpreting, evaluating, and responding to a message. So this is whenever people talk to you, this is what you're doing. You're listening. Okay? Hearing is the biological process, while listening is what you have to actually do to pay attention to that. All right? Maybe 9 for you? Period 1, 9. Ocho. There you go. Okay, so listening is this process, right? When people say, you're not hearing me. And I was like, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm hearing you, but I'm not listening to you. You can hear people, but choose not to listen to them. Happens all the time. People are on their cell phones. Oh, they got that one earphone in. Yeah, they can hear me, but they're not really listening to me because they're listening to their music instead. So hearing and listening are two different things. Do not get them confused. Does that make sense? Since hearing is a biological construct, right, you actually have to actually listen. All right? That's the paying attention part. Now, we know that effective listening occurs when the same message that is sent by the receiver by the sender is heard by the receiver. That's easy enough. But the big thing here is the difference between hearing and listening, and they're very, very different. And I'm going to go through the steps of effective listening in just a moment. Okay? Questions on that so far? I will ask this question. Like, this is no doubt be on your test. The difference between hearing and listening. Straight up. Like, number one. Actually, not number one. It'll be like number 30 on the test. It'll be something about hearing and listening. Absolutely. And hearing is well, you also need to know the biological process of hearing. And I'm probably going to talk about the science behind it, about the cochlea and the pinna and that kind of stuff, because it's a cool demonstration, right? You learn something cool about making ears bigger and the benefit of people having big ears. People make fun of Obama for having big ears. Hey, he hears a lot of things. Yes, ma'am. Mabel.
I still don't understand.
Sure. Okay. So hearing. All you know about hearing is that hearing is this biological process. It starts when pressure waves go into your pinna, and then it creates the sound by the swooshing of the cochlea water, bending the hair cells, and sending the message. That's the actual biological process of hearing. Okay? And listening is you actually paying attention to what's being heard. Okay? So the example I give is like you're walking in the hall with your earbuds in. You are hearing the music and me talking to you, but you are choosing to listen to your music. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Good question, though. I'm sure a lot of other people have the same question. Happens every year. Nowhere.
What about earwax?
Well, think about earwax, right?
What you say?
Yeah, no one does say I hear it.
People say, I listen to music. Yeah. But you are listening to music.
Yeah, no one says I'm hearing.
But hearing is that biological process. It's, okay, so earwax. In the case of earwax, let's use a funny color earwax. It's usually like right around here-ish. It's rainbow. And so notice what will happen with earwax is, look, less will be able to go in through here, so your hearing is muffled a little bit, right? Have you ever gone, and this is embarrassing, but if you've ever gone to the doctor and the doctor looks at your ear and goes, huh, and they kind of dig something at your ear real quick? Anyone ever had that experience before? There you go. Okay, I'm not afraid to say it. Happened to me one time. And so they got a little thing they can pull out, and they pull out a huge chunk of earwax. Like, oh my gosh, I can hear again. If anyone's ever gone to the ENT, the ear, nose, and throat doctor, they love to do that. It's like their favorite thing in the world to do. They go, hey, check this out, and they pull something out, and you're like, oh my Lanta, what did you do? People know what I'm talking about back there. Okay. Ear, nose, and throat doctors are pretty amazing. They'll put something up your nose to make you smell better, and you're like, oh my gosh, I never smelled like this before. And they're like, it's only temporary, homeboy. It's only temporary. Don't get crazy. They're good people, ENTs. All right. Why are we laughing? What's so funny? Is your dad an ENT?
No,
Mom an ENT?
no, the picture, like, it showed, like,
The bacon.
Oh, the bacon?
on the mouth.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. There are 4 steps to effective listening. Okay. Now, when I like to give little memory devices to help them memorize things easier. Okay. The 4 steps can be known if you understand the word river. Okay. If you understand the word river, you know the 4 steps to effective listening. Right now, you can tell me all 4 steps to effective listening because I taught you the word river. Okay. Why? R is for receiving, I is for interpreting, B is imaginary, E is for evaluating, and R is for responding. Okay, river. So, when you listen to people, when you take in a biological process of hearing, when that happens, you listen to people sometimes, right? And what happens is you receive it. First you receive it. You take it in to your ear holes. Okay? Most people, when they're listening, they won't get past this. Take it in your ear holes. And then you use your own experience to give meaning to what you heard. That's why I said sometimes people don't hear things the same way. Okay? So, okay. You use your own experience to give meaning to what you heard. If you heard, you signed up for that shift on Saturday, you could think it as, accusatory, like, you signed up for that shift on Saturday? Or it could be like, you signed up for that shift on Saturday? Here's a question. You can hear it as many different ways, okay, depending on your own experience, okay? Let me give you a good example of this, okay? So in my culture, my family culture, we fight all the time, and it's not like a bad fight. That's just how we talk to each other. We yell and fight about it. Okay. So anytime I'm in a discussion with someone and someone kind of raises their voice, my interpretation of it thinks of it as kind of like, okay, we're gonna fight right now, because of my own experiences, my interpretation of that. Does that make sense? So if you've ever wondered why some students on this campus, when a teacher comes and says, hey, I just want to talk to you, they get upset, is because they interpret that based on experiences, okay, and give meaning, a negative meaning to it. Does that make sense? Tell me if I'm like not making any sense at all. But we assign meaning based on our experiences. Okay? I'm not saying the message is going to be physically heard differently. What I'm saying is we assign meaning based on our experiences. Okay? Tell me if anyone is like, could be like, Rodriguez, you're talking out your bottom here. Okay. Now, after we put our own meaning to it, okay, what does this message mean? Then we evaluate. Is it positive or negative, or do I need to know more information? Okay, do I agree with it? Do I disagree with it? Or do I need more information? Most of the time, we're either going to agree or disagree. If we need more information, we're going to go, huh? And then we respond. So look, if someone says turn down for what, I still don't know what this means. Okay, people say turn down for what? I interpret it as like weird slang. Okay, I give meaning that it just is weird. I evaluate it
Negative external.
as I need more information. Negative external. And my feedback is, what in the world does that mean? Right? So RIVER. If I listened effectively, I would have an appropriate response. Because remember, effective listening involves taking in the appropriate message, that same message that was sent by the sender. All right? RIVER. Receive, interpret. V is imaginary. Evaluate, respond. Do you remember the river? Right? River on your chest? Done, done, done.
That's not even right.
What?
River.
So what does the V mean?
V is imaginary. It's the only way I can make a meaningful word out of it. Unless you want to remember Ryer. Some people that do is they'll make sentences like, my very nice aunt just made us nachos. I think that's what it is. My very nice aunt just made us nachos. That's the planets. I found this out the other day because Pluto ain't no planet no more since 2006. So they changed the mnemonic. It was like, remember it was like just made us pancakes, something like that. So my very nice aunt just made us nachos.
Goofy bounce down Fifth Avenue.
What?
What? Goofy bounce down Fifth Avenue.
Goofy bounce down Fifth Avenue?
Write it down. Let's see if you write it down.
So you could say Rodriguez is even
More Rodriguez.
I don't know. Rodriguez is everlasting, evermore Rodriguez. I don't know. All right. So there you go. You can make a meaningful sense of it. So, but river is what I did. All right. Okay. So when you respond to somebody, I kind of talked about this already. There are two types of responses, and this is really easy, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. There's a confirming response and a disconfirming response. A confirming response is the appropriate, relevant message. Okay. Now, interesting thing about this is the confirming response can be negative. Right? If it's appropriate and relevant, it could be negative. Let's just say Brianna over here is doing a performance. She said, hey, Rodriguez, how was my acting? I said, Brianna, that was terrible. Okay? Now, as her director, right, I'm sending the appropriate, relevant response. It is relevant for the actor to ask the director, how did I do in this scene? When I told her it was terrible, it's actually an appropriate and confirming response. Don't let this, because I will do this on the test. Okay, I do this every year. It's hysterical. We're like, that's disconfirming. That's negative. People hear the word dis, right, and they always think it's not, right, because the root word there. Okay, now, okay, because it's relevant. A disconfirming response now is giving no verbal or nonverbal feedback. That is what a disconfirming response is, and only that. Okay, nothing else. Yes, ma'am.
Can this confirming response be positive?
Like, give me an example. Like, I have an idea, but I want to hear yours. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. Like when, let's just say that like my wife comes up to me and says,
Does this dress make
does
you look
this dress make me look fat?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna go into the room and I'm gonna do something else. She doesn't have an answer from me, but it could be positive, right? I don't know. Like, right. And then the problem is this, right? It makes them feel uncomfortable. I mean, I guess in a case that could be positive,
Like, you're
but the problem is,
The other one been negative.
so what if you told her?
yeah. Like, you're walking the hallway, and your friend's like, hey, what's up? What are you doing today? You give him like a thumbs up and just keep walking.
But that wouldn't be the same thing because you give no verbal or nonverbal feedback. This is nonverbal feedback. So, I mean, they literally have to ignore you. So I can't really picture in my mind a time when silence would be, and ignoring someone would be appropriate.
Like someone tells you to do something and you just do it.
Oh,
But that's nonverbal feedback. The nonverbal feedback is you actually completing the task.
I mean, you know what you say when you walk off.
I realize that, but like, you doing it, you walking up to do it is nonverbal because they see you walking in that direction. So that communicates a message.
If you had, and then
I know. That's not.
So-
For me, it says you have no verbal or non-verbal. That goes with that.
I mean,
Like,
I think it could easily be assumed that it's one or the other, right? Either it's no verbal because you have the conditional, or nonverbal. So I guess in your situation it could be, right? They either give you no verbal or nonverbal. It could be disconfirming. The biggest thing with this, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate the questions. The biggest thing with disconfirming responses, it really makes people feel uncomfortable. Okay? It's really meant to be negative in nature because it makes you feel weird.
so they're both
Whatever.
negative.
This is negative, yes, and this can be negative or positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I put it can be negative because, I mean, it is appropriate for me to tell Brianna your acting is terrible, or it could be appropriate to say, Brianna, your acting is brilliant. Those are both confirming responses. All right, am I thoroughly confusing you? Okay, good.
hey, we're about to leave.
You have 3 minutes till the music comes on. Oh, no.
I was just saying.
All right. All right, I'm gonna finish this right here. We're halfway through this, anyways. All right, so I have to cover different types of listening, okay, by the state law. So these are really easy. Appreciative listening is you listening for enjoyment, entertainment purposes, that kind of stuff. Music, comedy, all that jazz. Okay. Turn down for what? Appreciative listening. If I listen to Jim Gaffigan, I listen for entertainment purposes. By the way, Jim Gaffigan is my favorite comedian, so they're happy.
I know for what is a terrible song.
It is. That's the only lyrics. Turn down for what? Turn down for what? Turn. It doesn't make sense. People are gonna be watching this on YouTube and they say, "Why is he talking about turn down for what?"
Have you seen the music video?
I'm not gonna talk about
It
it.
makes girls
Oh,
want to
he's
work.
seen it.
Now, empathetic listening. Empathetic listening is listening to provide emotional support to somebody. This is why the kids is thinking, how does that make you feel? Okay, whenever you've had a friend who's had a rough day and you've chatted with them, you're providing emotional support, listening to help them out. Hey, buddy. I do that to one of my friends. I give him a hard time all the time. I go, hey, buddy, how you feeling? So you listen and provide that support. Usually you sit with the psychiatrist, sit on the couch, let's talk, or when you're helping a friend in need, okay, over text message or whatever. Oh, girl, he broke up with you. It's okay. You're better than him. You're better than him. You don't need him. That kind of stuff, all right? Or about, talking to any of the Tigers after the game last Friday. Mean. What happened?
Right, what happened?
Get your head in the game.
I was in the game.
Were they 5A? Please say they weren't 5A.
Oh, they were fun.
What were they?
No, they was 5A, but they was like a high read.
They were a large.
Okay,
3 like.
they're 5A. We were ranked second in the state.
We were.
We were.
And against people that we don't play.
That we don't play. We're not.
In state tournament, you will.
No, we won't play the leagues. They regions like.
Oh, they're a different bracket because
Yeah.
I see.
So it's like our coaches.
Oh, you guys. Yes, ma'am.
So you know if you're like,
I got like 2 minutes.
when you're done, can you come to the auditorium because we've had another presenter in there from another teacher and he has that on. We just need the sound turned on.
Is Kim in? Kim's got a study hall. Call
It was unavailable, but
Oh, I can do it though. I can do it in just a minute. I'm like,
just check in when you're done.
yeah.
Those we did.
All right. So with that said, I have to go help the principal. Catch me on the flip side tomorrow because that's our time anyways, and we'll finish this tomorrow. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you guys later.
I hear music like.
The music was playing. You can keep it.